I think it's something that a discussion that would help people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, but it is a bit broad though. So.
No, but it's good though. And I've been hearing like a lot of people just the stigma. It's not something we normally talk about as black men, like you said.
Exactly.
And I've just heard a lot of people say recently, like it's just we need to be a lot more open to therapy.
There you go.
And talking to a mental health professional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And being able to not just vent, but to express things we kind of go through and be able to kind of get ideas out there.
Is so integral to every other aspect of our lives.
Right.
Because if I don't find myself in a reasonably decent mental space, then I won't be able to provide for my family. I won't be able to, not at my best, potential anyway. I won't be able to be the best father. I won't be able to maintain a healthy diet, a healthy exercise regimen. There are so many things that go, a person's mindset is the spark that ignites every flame, so to speak, in their lives.
Yeah.
And so we got a lot of people that are damaged, that are living life and just kind of going through routine.
Yeah.
But the potential for their lives to be more fulfilled and more happy and more peaceful and joyous and all these other things stems from, and just my opinion, stems from whether or not it can be determined by whether or not we address our mental health and face those challenges head on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's easy to be like, well, I done made it in my 30s now. I ain't never had a therapist before, and I'm all right, and I can laugh with the best of them, and I'm not depressed. So it makes me think I get lulled into this thought, especially as a man, because we have our pride and all of these things.
Right.
I can be lulled into a sense that says I don't need to really address any, mental health things.
Yeah.
We've I don't know which one of y'all said the word stigma, but stigma is the biggest reason why we don't, because historically, the term mental health and anything dealing with that arena really used to refer more to somebody who has lost their mind or is crazy. But it could just mean that I'm not perfectly at peace with where I am in life. Or it could mean that I'm having a struggle with, figuring out how to get my cholesterol down. You know what I mean? It could be a million different things.
I agree. I love that. And it sparks my thought now where I feel like as little black boys, at some point, some of us get forgotten. We got to figure out how to become men, and we don't always have a man or have somebody that can really show us, hey, this is what you do. This is what you don't do. This is etiquette. This is how you conduct yourself around a woman. I think a lot of young men, as they transition from that area of like, say, 17, 18, 19, 20, so I don't really know what to do. And then they resort to things like violence or just rebelliousness, because it's like, and you hear it in a lot of hip hop where it's like, bump the world. I don't, nobody cares about me, so I'm gonna just be out here. And I think all of that gets just ignored, and then it gets thrown into this pot of, he's just like all the others. And it's like, well, he was somebody with potential though, and he was just forgotten. Nobody looked at him. And I think those are the discussions that are missing. And, and because I'm going to tell you this, I did the, like Big Brothers and Big Sisters program, because I really wanted to see how,
As a kid or as a mentor?
No, as a mentor. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, as a mentor. I wanted to just see how that would work for me. And I really enjoyed it. I would do it again because I wanted to be more of a mentor because you see the need out here, and I love, for our podcast, we have an opportunity to kind of talk to that a little bit. Not like we're going to sit here and set up a program or anything, but we can say, speak to those things to spark the minds of others and say, hey, because what I'm seeing and what I'm observing is a lot of problems out there socially. Yeah. And they're just not being addressed. Everybody's like, I don't know what to do with my kid. I don't know how to fix him. And so little boys and little girls, particularly little black boys and little black girls, just get forgotten. And then you have generations that are lost. And then nobody's talking to them because nobody cares, really, ultimately. And all that plays into mental health problems because it's like I don't know where to go, I don't know who to talk to, I don't know what's going on in the world, and then you all of a sudden you just start seeing all kinds of crazy stuff exploding because nobody has guidance, nobody's talking to anybody anymore. But I agree with what you said, like fellas, we don't talk about that.
We don't, but it's,
you know what I'm saying?
I think we have to try to work to make that less of a stigma and make it normal. Because
exactly.
We normalized our trauma.
Yes.
And I think we have to start normalizing it to be okay to we view it as vulnerable.
Right.
Right.
That's the problem.
And
vulnerability.
We've associated vulnerability as weakness,
yes.
as a lack of safety.
Yes.
As a target.
Yes.
And that's something we have to break out of. You know
exactly.
what I mean? Because
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Being able to talk about that stuff and showing vulnerability to a mental health professional, it's okay to do. You're human. Yes. You're not invincible. You know what I mean? You're not Superman. No matter how many you got, 50 Cent shot 5 times. You got a couple guys.
I
know you think you are. But, you know what I mean? But it's just, it's okay to show that vulnerability sometimes because as much as we've normalized the trauma, we have a lot of damage that happens that's not spoken about.
Exactly.
And we have to be able to vent that and share that because we don't always, it's like you said too, because I've been in that mindset for a long time. Like if I've made it all this time and I've never talked to anybody and I'm not, holding a gun to my head every night when I'm going to sleep kind of thing, I must be all right. And it's just like, it's deeper than that though. You know what I mean? There's a level of health and stability that's there that you may think everything is fine, but that doesn't mean that there's not trauma that you're not dealing with or not addressing. You know what I mean?
Right. And
after you pointed us to that documentary with Cosby, it was very, because even like you mentioned, like okay, us having a platform of the podcast, and I do think that's one of the things we should be using this for. It was very striking to me that how many people were talking about, and maybe I'm trying to think, wasn't even in that documentary, or was it something else? But the number of people they interviewed that were like, I didn't have a father in the home, so watching the Cosby Show when I came on with Thursday nights or whatever that
it was Thursday night.
That was my chance to sit down and hear a black father guide me. You know what I mean?
That wasn't that. I think it wasn't
a documentary, right? So having that, like people realizing I don't have that male guidance, I don't have that male figure in my life, but seeing a man that was there just acting as a father in a TV show was able to speak to a lot of the situations they were able to go through. And that's the kind of thing I think we have to go through. We have to start, not even start, I think is what we're doing now, but to be able to talk to that mindset of, again, I can show vulnerability and it doesn't make me weak. It doesn't make me a target. It doesn't mean I'm a bust. I'm just a target for somebody out there. You know what I mean? I'm human. I got human emotions, and I got to go through and be able to talk through some of those things. To be able to talk through the negativity that's prevalent in the mindsets of our communities. We got to be able to talk through a way to stop that because the more and more we normalize that, that's when you're talking about like people getting forgotten. When that becomes the expectation. Then even the loss or the death of somebody is so expected. It's just like, okay, it's Tuesday. You know what I'm saying? What's next? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And we got to be able to start normalizing some of those things or making a safe, I hate to use the term safe space.
That's cool. That fits though.
Right. Just to give people an opportunity to realize that, no, it's not okay to have that negative mindset. It's not okay to have that mindset that I'm a blast first to make sure, let's just try to talk through what does it take to have the right kind of mindset that our communities can thrive. Because the mindsets we have in our communities right now, they're not. You know what I mean? And it's like, apart from whatever has been done to our communities, we have an aspect of, we have a responsibility to ourselves to try to do as much healing as we can. And the mindsets that we allow ourselves to hold on to and to become normal, it's not helping us.
Not at all.
It's not helping us. And it's like, no matter how hard you think it makes you or how tough or how much of a, you know what I mean, whatever it is you think it makes you, is not doing anything for you. It's not doing anything for our communities. You know what I mean?
Not at all.
And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm sorry. I think the biggest secret is that our biggest strength is for us to be able to control our emotions. Have control of our emotions. Like you can reveal, something's bothering you.
Exactly.
You can reveal it to your woman too.
And
not not feel like a punk about it. Like if you gotta cry, just go ahead and cry about it. But don't make it seem like, okay, me being emotional, I don't have a spine. You know what I'm saying? And I think that has been so ingrained into our existence. Because even just being in school, man, if you cry, you get laughed at.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? And they ride you for the rest of the year.
For sure.
Like, yo, man, my man was crying on the bus. You know what I'm saying? So you grow up with those types of things, and then you don't reveal anything, and then you wake up one day, man, why am I so angry? Like I really got some bad ideas, and it's not me. Like I don't really. That's not how I really feel, but I'm just so angry at all that I see, and I don't know how to communicate it.
Right.
Next thing you know, you punching a hole in the wall.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's the point, as particularly for us as black men, like we have to continue creating forum and building forums where we can just discuss like these types of problems, like on a grand scale, and push the discussion, and push it hard.
You hit the nail on the head though for the biggest proof that we need to have that conversation is the anger that we hold on to.
Yes. Yeah.
There is no stronger symptom, I think, in our community or in the minds of our men that something is wrong. No stronger symptom than the anger that we hold on to. You know what I mean? That is evidence of trauma. That's the result of trauma. That's the evidence that there's something there that's unaddressed that needs to be dealt with and resolved. You know what I mean? That is not a happy place. It's not a stable place. It's not the mindset we want to be in. And we tend to think of it as a defense mechanism or as like protection to a degree. But having that kind of anger with you all the time is not healthy, and that's the symptom that there's something else going on that we need to be addressing, and we're not.
Exactly. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
And our women don't feel protected with us when we conduct ourselves in a way that's less than flattering.
Right.
And we don't speak life into ourselves into them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that as we're talking, my mind is going more towards those who we have influence with, than more so than just our own, like our generation, well, y'all's generation and my generation.
Shut up.
But I think about the comment that you made about the person that was describing how influential Bill Cosby was, or in the Cosby Show, him representing a black father, a positive male role model to kids all across the country. But I also think about how that was intentional on his end.
It was, yeah.
But it wasn't intentional on the end of the child who thought at that moment that they were just being entertained. Nobody, no 5-year-old kid is going to turn on the Cosby Show and I need somebody to really guide me today. So let me go sit down in front of it. They weren't thinking that. It was under the guise of entertainment. There was comedy there, but it was intentional on the part of the person that had that influence. So people like Bill Cosby, I don't know how much you guys have heard about this, but according to legend, so to speak, did y'all see that? It's gonna freak me out.
What was that?
I don't know what it was.
Coming out your mouth?
Oh, it was a feather?
I don't know what it was.
I don't know what it was.
I don't know what it was.
So according to legend, he worked with psychiatrists or psychologists. Psychologists are the ones that study. Psychiatrists are the ones that like prescribe medicine, right? Okay, so he worked with psychologists and other experts on family and all of that kind of stuff before each script was written, in order to make it as effective as possible in terms of providing that perfect image. So even though they had the comedy, even though they had the conflict, all of these other elements that they had in the show, nothing was allowed to get past a certain point because it was intentional. He wanted to influence these the people that he was reaching in a certain way. And so knowing that child never intended on that, but as they got older, they realized, wow, he had a lot of impact. That made a big impact on me. So I start to think about people like us who are, relatively close to the age that Cosby was when he was doing his thing. And the fact that we have platforms, whether it's the YouTube thing or our families or our friends and circles of influence. How much responsibility falls on us to become that. You know what I'm saying? That positive image.
I agree. Because people are watching.
Right.
All the time.
Right.
All the time. For better or worse.
Right.
I think it's important to understand for each of us that we are flawed as individuals. And I think that's part of the reason why Bill Cosby had such a tragic fall, because
never let his flaws show. Never let his flaws show.
Exactly. Exactly. And so it circles back around for me to, and I wasn't even going to go this way, but this is where it's headed, so let's go. It circles back around to me with the way that I was raised and a lot of other people who were raised in the church, especially in the sect of church that I was raised. Our parents and leaders were not, willing to show that humanity.
Yeah, it's true.
And to me,
I agree with that.
Yeah, to me that, and they're doing the best they can. It's not something that I find malicious or anything like that.
Right.
I think there has to be a shift in this understanding that in order to be a good leader, you have to think that I'm perfect. I don't agree with that.
Right.
I think that in order for me to present myself as perfect or without flaw, and I still want to influence you or teach you or guide you, it takes away my relatability. And I had this conversation recently. I won't get into it. I had a spiritual conversation about Christianity. Not a spiritual. I had a conversation about the religion of Christianity in terms of this exact kind of focus. But I believe that if you remove the humanity from a leader, you lose a certain level of their relatability. So how can I want to be just like you if I can never be like you? If you're perfect, then I know I'm not perfect. Even as a child, I know I'm not perfect. I might lie, might steal, might pee the bed, whatever. If I'm looking to you and all you show me is that, listen, nothing I do is wrong. If that's the image that I have of you in my head, then it creates this thing where I feel like there's no way I'll ever get there. So why try?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And this is where a lot of us kind of, even subconsciously, without making that decision, without having that dialogue in our minds, we still follow the same path that says, I'm not going to try. If I have to be absolutely perfect, I'll never be 100% perfect as a human being. So what am I going to keep pushing for? All you're going to do, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's an unattainable goal. Exactly. I had another point, but it just slipped me. But if I remember it, I'll come back to it. But yeah, I'm thinking, I know it's important for us to address our own mental health as adults and leaders, but I think that the goal should be to heal ourselves so that we can heal those who come behind us. You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
Because if everybody has that mindset, then eventually we will get to a generation that doesn't have the same petty flaws that we have. You know what I mean? The same childish things that we pour ourselves into, like you said, the anger and the unnecessary violence and all of these things. Those are things that can be, I'm going to use the term bred out, but generation over generation, if we start to change the way that we teach our young people, especially our young men, like you said, fighting the stigma about vulnerability. It's ridiculous to think that as a man, I can't be vulnerable at any point. I'm never vulnerable when it comes to protecting my family or standing up for myself. But when it comes down to things that, grief or pain or other sorts of trauma, of course, why wouldn't I want to be available to those emotions so that I can address them straight on and then move past it? We sit and say, okay, well, I'm a man. I got to toughen up, grow a pair, all this kind of stuff. That's harming our community.
Yes, I agree.
In a major way.
But you gave a key there again, though, right? It's about addressing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we all have those emotions, but people think that if I have sadness, I'm weak. Or if I grieve, I'm weak, or this and that. And that's the end. It's not the end. You know what I mean? You recognize you have these emotions because you're human and it's natural. Realizing that you have those is just showing you that that's something that you have to address and deal with. But there is another side of that. You know what I mean? There is life on the other side of, I've addressed that emotion, I've dealt with it, I've processed it, and now I'm moving on to my next stage of life. I let that emotion serve me whatever it was there to do for that period of time, and then I move on from that.
And then put it back in his seat, and I got back in the driver's seat.
Exactly. It's not, that vulnerability is not a permanent thing. It's not an irreversible thing. This is an emotion. This is something I'm dealing with. Let me actually deal with it. Let me address it. Let me process it. Let it go through all the motions of what it's supposed to do, and then I grow from that once I've learned everything it has to teach me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I go on from that.
Yeah. It's some celebrities, that's a very good point you make, man. It's some celebrities that are coming out now, black men, that are really speaking in pro of therapy for black people, really, because there are some things that have harmed us generationally that we have not discussed.
Right.
And then the people that have come before us, they go on, they transition, and then we never talk about it.
Right.
And then we're left to deal with these raw emotions or whatever has happened to us, lies, deceit, things in the family, or just things that you never were able to get off. And it's just like you have to deal with that, and then you pass it on to your kids. And this keeps, the cycle just keeps going on after that. But that therapy, people that have that are in that profession, they know how to get those things out
Absolutely.
of you in a healthy way.
Absolutely.
You know, where you're not destructive about it. And then you hurt yourself further.
Right.
And I think that's something that should be promoted more in our community. But it's not because, again, we go back to, that's weak, man, I don't need no therapy, man, I'll just deal with it. You know, I'll just smoke it off. It's like, no, you got to really focus on it, like talk about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't, then you result to violence, or you take it out on those you love.
Or the escapes, like you said. You know,
yes.
The escapes is like just avoiding dealing with the actual problem.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So, yeah. I think these conversations, man, are vital, because we're living in a time, man, where you'll have a guy that'll break into a home and accost an old woman, you know, and not think anything about it, you know, literally. And so, yeah, exactly. And so we live in dark times. And so in those dark times, we have to address, and I love the way the minister, he says, we have to clean house within our own families. You know, we can't go outside of that. We have to, in rooms like this, amongst ourselves, and talk about the hard things that nobody else wants to talk about. And then go out there in the world and just share it and say, hey, man, look here, this is how we need to think about this. This is how we need to approach it. And I like what Mike said, is like, we got to focus on fixing ourselves so that we can help others.
Absolutely.
You know?
So what can we do in terms of actual putting things into practice? So let's say somebody's watching and they're uncertain about how to get started with that quote unquote healing process. How do we put these concepts into practice?
I say focus on the things that you care most about and feed off of that. Focus on positive affirmations, aspects of love, loving thyself, loving others. Practice speaking life into yourself and kind of start there. I mean, because what else do you have? Because there's people, man, that don't really have the tools to say, you know what, man, I'm gonna try and think differently about this today. I mean, because we all get discouraged. We all, you know, at some point hate our jobs, things like that. And so we feel trapped and bound in a thought process.
Right.
And so you have to get to the point where you say to yourself, and I'm no professional by any means with any of this, but I do find when I'm down or I feel like I'm struggling with hope in certain aspects of my life, I have to do some kind of affirmation.
Right.
I have to say to myself, yeah, there's a different way to look at this.
Right.
Or I can focus on the aspects of my life that I love, you know. And when you do that, because a lot of people don't understand, man, you may be in your life and you may be just going through the motions every day and you can't really see what is good. Well, start off with the fact that you woke up and then kind of go from there. Start off with the activity of your limbs. And that's kind of what my father would help me with. Because, you know, as a kid, you get into complaining and whining about stuff. It's like, yeah, son, but you have the activity of your limbs. It's a little boy your age that doesn't have that. Yeah, and then you stop that. I grew up like that. My father always did that. He's like, yeah, there's kids out there that can't see, son. You just have to wear glasses. I'm like, thanks, Dad. I feel like a complete jerk. And you grow up like with this appreciation of it's not as bad as you really think it. You think it
Making it till you make it is a huge thing. A lot of times it's very counterintuitive because it doesn't make any logical sense for me to say like, you know, I'm really feeling down in the dumps today, or blah, blah, blah. And I know that's how I feel. But to stand in the mirror and say, I feel great. Today is a fantastic day. I'm alive, blah, blah, blah. It's counterintuitive to, you know, it fights all logic. But at the end of the day, it's a very effective tool, especially once you get into a regular habit of it. Right quick, I know you wanted to say something right quick. I wanted to share two websites. I haven't used these, but in the spirit of trying to find a way to address these things in a practical way. There's a website called betterhelp.com, BETTERHELP.com. We're not sponsored by them in any way, and I haven't used them personally, but they have therapists specifically guided towards African-American clients and customers. And also there's another website called freeblackTherapy.org. Again, not sponsored. We haven't used them. I haven't used them. I don't know. I doubt if y'all have. But most things when we're talking about trying to start a habit or a practice are as easy as a Google search away. It took me 10 seconds to find this. All I have to do is call the phone number and say, hey, listen, I don't know what the process is. I'm not rich, blah, 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 but I'm dealing with some things, or I want to find out why I'm so angry. I want to find out why I can't sleep at night. I want to find out why I'm so unmotivated all the time, or, all of these kind of things. So where do I go? Yeah. These people are trained specifically to help you from that, even just that little nugget of information, to help you to try to open up your mind to address to first of all find and then address the things that are your quote unquote demons. So I just wanted to share that right quick. One last thing is you mentioned something about understanding the little things, like having the activity of your limbs and so on. There's a quote in Will Smith's book. He said that he was sitting at church one day with his grandmother, and they were poor and all this kind of stuff. But I can't think of the exact scenario. I know he was in church with his grandmother, but she said to him, "It's impossible to be sad when you're thankful. It's impossible. That's perfect. When you're overwhelmed with a feeling of thankfulness and gratefulness, it's impossible to harbor negative feelings. They may come, but they'll pass, because if your default is thankfulness and gratefulness, every negative emotion has to just blow by. You know what I mean? It's just the nature of it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm gonna add to what you're saying. Like, how can somebody dance when they're angry?
Yeah.
Dance is a happy emotion. Right? You can't dance and you're angry, right? It's kind of one of those things. So one of the thoughts you were saying about, okay, what's the next steps, right? How do we help people out, right? And once again, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but a thought that came, sitting here listening to you guys talk, I think it's two things from my mind. And if you guys want to add to this, it's fine. But I think number one is being honest. We have to teach how to be honest. That is the hardest thing that you could teach a youngster, and sometimes to an adult, right? You know what I'm saying? It was about being painfully honest and just listen out those, those weaknesses that you have, maybe strengths or whatnot. You have to be honest to write a list of those things that make you feel a certain way. Being absolutely honest with yourself. The number two thing, number two would be the thoughts that you have as a youngster was given to you. You received them somehow, right? And it's not your fault. You've received that thought somehow. It was an impact somehow. And one of the things that I was thinking about was maybe that child was comparing themselves to something that was missing, a void that was missing. Right. And they didn't know that void, they didn't know how to fill that void, whether it's a negative or positive or whatnot. So there's this emotion that you're talking about that goes back to that emotion, right? When a person for years are dealing with their emotions or whatnot, what's the escape strategy? Today we got to fight up hills, even if we're in this construct that we're in, this forged construct with minds and people online are listening to it. This whole construct is to get better. It's not to get worse. You know what I'm saying? It's about breaking bread, discussing amongst one another our weaknesses, our strengths, and so we can help people that are listening so they can be better, right? Yeah. And so one thing that I was thinking about is this platform, we're a very small percentage of the impact of what's going on in the world today. You got FOMO that's out there, the fear of missing out. Kids are carrying around their phones. That is a fight that we are dealing with. You know what I'm saying? They are constantly they're bombarded with things that they are comparing their lives to. You know what I'm saying? They're constantly looking at so many things that is giving them an imagination, is giving them thoughts, is giving them things that is not even originally in them to begin with.
Create a false identity.
It could create false identity. And not only that, they're influencing them to think like that, right? So it's very important for us to be here, discussing these just thoughts and whatnot, and just being open, honest. And another last thing I was thinking about, that was two, right? So going back to a previous thought was, I'm getting with a guy later on this week, and I was asking him how to ask a question, right? And one of the things that I'm terrible at is asking the right question, right? And the number one he told me, he says, not a such thing. He said, you just start off with a question, and then most of the time you're going to get around where you want to do with the answer or with that question around the fourth or the fifth question. You know what I'm saying? So when we're dealing with someone with emotions or whatnot, we have to learn to engage on how to ask the right question so they can release themselves from that impact. You know what I mean? Right. So mental health is a very, very crucial thing. And I didn't realize how critical it was, you know, until I really had children. I was up here, you know, impacted by it all my life. And I'm up here a father, you know, and a husband, right? A brother, a friend, and not realizing that I've been affected in some type of way, right? You know what I'm saying? Right. And one more thing. This 4. This 4. So
you should make a tally on the back.
Just keep adding to it.
Right.
But this is a beautiful thing, y'all. Like seriously, because until you slow down and really think about your thoughts, right? It's a lot up there in your head, right? There's a lot. And you talk about someone that's impacted or they're going through trials, or not even a trial, but something, you know, a situation in their life. Just think about the mountain of emotions and different things that they need to release. You know what I'm saying? Sure. So that's kind of like my thought right there. Yeah. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing, man.
Yeah, that's good.
You know?
What you're talking about speaks a lot to that influence that we were talking about before. You know, social media, phones, friends, peers, all of these things influence not just kids but us as well.
Yeah.
And well, you know, most of us who participate in those things, but even those of us who don't have any social media or, you know, got flip phones or whatever, are still influenced by peers and coworkers and, you know, all of this kind of stuff. The news or whatever it is that we consume has some level of influence on us, whether it changes our mind about something or whether it puts an idea in our head about something that wasn't there in the first place. Which is why I think, and it's just circling back around to my original thought, why I think it's so critical for those who have influence to be intentional with it.
Yes.
And create a sort of counterculture against the, you know, the nature of the culture of distraction. You know what I mean? The culture of inadequacy. You know, we like you said, that comparison is a monster. Little girls comparing themselves to the Kardashians, and none of them are even really what they really look like. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's not. They didn't look like that from birth. They were, you know, altered. You know what I mean? Boys comparing themselves to rappers and other entertainers who are renting all of their jewelry and their cars and houses and all that kind of stuff. But for those of us who have, number one, good sense, and then number two, a way to influence other people, I think it's incumbent upon us to shine the light on the way that the fact that most of what we see is fake. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's true.
Because if a person who, you're not going to stop people from comparing themselves. Right.
Because I like the language you speak about what we need to normalize. All right. So you normalize, hey, being smart is cool.
Right.
Being caring is not weak.
Right.
And if we as men, we walk around and we talk that way, you know, we show the younger generation, and I'm talking about, we could be talking about our peers. I mean, I can be an example to my peers that are my age or people that are younger. Hey, man, this is how you treat your lady, or this is how you talk to people. This is how you conduct yourself in public in certain spaces. I mean, these are the things that the conversations that we need to have because, see, for me, man, I love having a sense of humor. I love laughing. I always have it, even when I was a kid. It always surprised people because they was like, man, you too serious. And I'm like, I'm actually not.
Same.
Like it's
same. I get
see,
the exact
that's what I'm
same.
saying.
Yeah.
But see, as soon as you start talking, they were like, wait a minute. Because I've had people look at me and they were like, wait a minute. This guy's joking.
Right.
And I'm like, Thank you for noticing.
I'm joking most of the time.
I'm joking most of the time.
I don't take most things serious.
Exactly. I'm like, my face may be serious,
right.
But I'm actually a clown, you know. But the thing is that, man, I don't really watch comedians much. I don't care about comedians. I don't know, because for me to think that I'm going to laugh and know that I'm supposed to laugh, it just kills it for me. But I see why they get paid so much, because laughter, especially in the day and age that we live now, is so vital to just how we can recover from things.
It's good like a medicine.
It is like a medicine. It really is. And so for me personally, I always try and bring that to certain situations that I find myself in, especially when you're around people that don't really know you or maybe uneasy or don't know how to move.
Right.
The best icebreaker is when you make people laugh. I've been around people that don't know me.
Right.
And as soon as they like, oh, you're a funny guy, then it's like, okay, now I can relax.
Right.
Now I don't feel like he's going to judge me because he just clowned himself.
Right.
And so creating these types of environments help people understand that there are other people out there that are not going to actually look at you and judge you or look at you and have an opinion about you based on how you look or how you act.
Right.
Because I've been around many different people that have not been accepted.
Yeah.
And I treat them like I would treat anybody else. And they open up to me and they talking to me about stuff. It was like, hey, we could stop talking now. I don't need to. I don't need to. But they feel that comfort.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, your name is.
Right.
I'm like, thank you, but
giving your life story.
Yeah, exactly. They feel that comfortable. I'm talking about in many settings, college work, travels, all these things. And so it's imperative that we, through those examples of just how you conduct yourself around people. But I will say I thank God for my father. I always got to say that. Because my father, you can put him anywhere on the planet and he'll make a friend. I think it's amazing just watching him. I'm like, why are you talking to that guy? It's it's amazing because it's like, you guys look like you have nothing in common.
Right.
But that's how we actually are supposed to move. If we really knew our power in that, we would be a lot better off. But we have so many distractions. We have so many people telling us what we are, what we aren't. And then we listen to that and we don't yield to our own inner self and our inner thoughts and say, I'm a good person, man. I have no intent or any harm or any ill against anybody. I'm not going to let anybody else tell me that I'm a bad guy. So once you allow yourself to get those kind of thoughts in your head and let that rule the day and don't let social media tell you how you should think or look, be a lot better.
The whole idea is we have to teach young people through our experiences what is real. Like they think that, they think internet, TV, cable, whatever construct is real. They are actually conditioned to believe a lot of these things are real, from rap to acting and different things like that. Something has programmed them to believe a certain way.
Right.
But us that we feel the pain, we felt the pain, we got the experience, we got a 9-to-5 plus job, right? We're paying our bills and different things like
common sense.
It's common sense.
Just the common things, right? We have to paint a picture very clearly if they're willing to listen, and that's the thing, man. But even if we feel they're not listening, say it anyway, because it's going to impact. Consciously, subconsciously, it's going to be there.
I found that. I found that to be true.
It's going to be there subconsciously. So just in case you don't think that they're listening, man, they are listening. And it's very important for us as men, is to really engage in those hard conversations as well, and let us kill our ego, thinking that they're not listening. Why should I even do this right now? No, so I'm done with the pride. You know what I'm saying? Right. Go ahead and engage that. That's a human being. That's a soul right there, right? You know what I mean? You didn't give that soul. Is actually, to be honest with you, we are servants. We are services. You know what I mean, to the next person. So if we, and that's what this construct is about. We're a service to you. You know what I mean? Any of my experiences, if you have an experience that you can share with me, I know you're going to tell me the same thing with you and you. And that's how we help one another to avoid those things, you know.
I love
as
that,
much
man.
As possible.
I love that. Dealing with reality, I think, is key for people to develop strong mindsets. You have to deal with reality, because if you take your check and buy some Jordans and you have a water bill, your water's about to get cut off. It's not dealing with reality. It's people that do that, though. It's people who go out there, get Balenciaga, Louis, all these different things. It's like, but you have bills at home. You have mouths to feed. You're not dealing with the reality. And then they get upset and get mad when they don't have enough to do the stuff that is in reality. And so that's not dealing. And then they get these breakdowns because they feel overwhelmed. They can't figure out why they can't get a leg up. It's like, because your priorities are off.
Good.
You know, you're not thinking about
I've suffered that myself.
Yeah. You like Balenciaga or?
No. Just
Jordans. I don't.
No.
I don't follow. I don't copy.
No, I meant just following the path of making less than ideal decisions, and then looking back, sometime later, like, how did I get here? You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah, I've been there. I've been there.
Yeah.
My Amazon list of things I purchased is ridiculous. I gotta stop it. So, but I love the discussion of dealing with reality, because not dealing with reality is a huge problem when it comes to how we develop strong mindsets and how we just maneuver through life.
Right.
If you don't think that, I'll just deal with that bill later. My account getting overdrafted, I don't have to worry about that. It'll fix itself. It's like, it won't. What will happen is
they won't be able to get it from me if I don't have it.
If I don't do direct deposit, I'll be okay.
Right.
But it's like, if you don't deal with these types of realities, you can never get farther, ahead enough to really make an impact on anybody else's life. Forget about getting married. Right. Forget about that. If you ain't got your money right, you don't have certain aspects of who you are as a man in order, forget about marriage. Because that's going to reveal even more about yourself.
That's so true.
That you probably didn't see around the corner. You look around the corner, it's like, man, I'm like that. I didn't pay attention to that. And then you have to deal with that. And it just keeps compounding. And I think people don't look at, and we as men don't even look at, how much responsibility that we actually have. Absolutely. We're not even, sometimes not even raised to really look at it like, these are all the things you need to be a pillar of a society.
Right. I think that's important, man. And it's kind of going back to just the same, we've been talking about, like, just how do we, going back, like the question that you asked earlier, like, how do we actually put the stuff into action? How do we make a difference? You know what I mean? And it's exactly what you guys are saying. I think that, for one, like you gave the example of a couple of websites people can use, right? Find somebody to talk to, right? And if you don't feel comfortable talking to people that
somebody healthy and wholesome.
Exactly. Somebody that's actually gonna have something productive and positive to offer you. And if it's nobody in your life that you have like that, then call one of those numbers for like a professional that deals with that. If you do have somebody in your life that or that you can share and be open with, call that person, you know what I mean? And don't feel like it's going to be a burden. Let them know, I just want to get something off my chest. I want to share, I want to vent, whatever. And call somebody that if you can go that route. And I know there's going to be some people who say, well, I don't have anybody. And if that's the case, I would kind of go to step 2 from that is
call you. 586.
That's hilarious.
No, but it goes to what you were saying about being of service to people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you don't have anybody in your life like that, then there's a scripture that says, "He that would have friends must show himself friendly." If you don't feel like you have anybody in your life that you can go and talk to and use as that sounding board event to talk to, like they catch all of mine all the time, right? So if you don't have anybody that you can talk to like that, then go find somebody you can serve. You know what I mean? And I don't mean go wait tables. I'm saying go find somebody that needs something, or somebody that doesn't need something, but just that you can give something to them just to be of service and not looking for anything in return.
Yeah, right.
Paying somebody a compliment, helping somebody that that you just see is doing something by themselves and struggling. And I don't mean just go find some chick that you think is beautiful and pay her a compliment kind of thing like that. I'm saying somebody that really needs something that you can offer without having any kind of intent for yourself to get anything back whatsoever. And find a few people like that to do that to a day. You know what I mean? And even if it's not, you don't have that person right here and now, you find yourself doing that a few times, you're going to find people. You're going to come across people who want to befriend you, who want to know more about you, want to know why you're like that. And it's going to work out in your favor. You know what I mean? So find somebody you can go compliment, help out, serve in some way, shape, or form, and you'll start to build those kind of relationships up. And the last thing I think kind of again goes back to some of the things we were saying before is the power of visualization, right? And again, common sense, something productive, something positive. Think about who your ideal self is, the ideal person you want to be, the best version of you. And once you have that image in your mind, go through every second of your day thinking about how would that ideal version of me act and treat this situation? How would I speak back to this person in the situation that I'm in? What would I do for this person that's asking for money? What would I do for any situation? Think about the ideal you and how the ideal you would respond in that situation and be that person. Follow that response, right? Follow that thought process of what the ideal you would do in that situation. Do that. And eventually what you visualize is going to be what you become.